talk to on a daily basis. Usually when we go out and do our jobs, it's usually just a photographer, a camera. Every once in a while you're at a parade where there's a couple of eyes looking back at you, but for the most part, you're out there by yourself with a photographer. When I worked in Florida, I worked with a little Cajun guy named Sid, and that was who I saw every day on the other side of that camera. You know, think about, there's probably 100,000, maybe 200,000, depending on who you're talking to, what newscast you're in, on a daily basis. And God, to think about that might be like an LA Memorial Coliseum filled with people. It's just terrifying. But I've been doing it for now about 20 years, almost 20 years. Started out right after college. Happened to get a job working for the CBS Evening News, was interning there, and there was a little murder in Brentwood. Nicole Brown Simpson was killed, and they needed a little extra help working on the O.J. Simpson trial. So I was picked up by CBS Evening News and worked on the trial for about 2 years. It was supposed to be a temporary gig, and that's sort of where I got my first taste of like big news. I mean, you really had to put your foot out there and get attention when you needed it. I was stationed at the front of the courthouse, and that was my little spot with the photographer. And Robert Shapiro, Johnny Cochran, Robert Kardashian, before Keeping Up with the Kardashians, would walk by every day. And my producers would give us a question or a topic that they wanted covered for the day. And you would have to try with throngs of reporters to get that person's attention and try to get them to come over to you and then get an answer or try and get feedback from them on whatever the issue was, whether it was the gloves or the blood evidence or Mark Furman. I hope you guys remember some of these names from history books, right? These are probably like just before. Anyway, so I worked on the O.J. Simpson trial for a while, and then I've been going around working at different TV stations. I worked at WFTV in Orlando for about 9 years before coming back to California about a year ago. And it is a really enlightening experience going out. You see a lot of public speakers. I'm thrilled to see you guys talking out here without talking behind a podium and not having notes, because when you go to these public speeches up here at the Capitol, you hear these politicians speak. They're always reading the scripted thank you. I want to thank so-and-so. I want to thank this person. It sounds like a Grammy or an Academy Award speech. And those things never have any impact on anybody. They never have any impact on anybody. And it ends up being cut out of your news story. So to hear people speak like from the heart and to hear you guys like talk, that's, I think, what people want to hear. And I think that will make you better speakers in the long run. You guys have like this great advantage too if you're actually speaking to people, and I think one thing that we do as broadcasters, we have this security blanket that's called a camera, and we get to kind of hide behind it, so you don't really get to see the interaction. It's a little bit different, but it's a good feeling, I think. The thought of having an awe wizard back there terrifies me. We were out at the Roseville shooting the other day. You probably just counted another one, right? We were out at this Roseville shooting the other day, and we were at wall-to-wall coverage. They didn't want to cut away to a commercial break, because cutting away to a commercial break means that viewers are going to click to the other stations to see what they have. So they'll keep the TV coverage going as long as they possibly can, as long as there's something developing. And with the shooting the other day, I'm sure you guys have heard about the 4 officers that were shot, 3 officers shot and 1 injured in bullet fragments. The coverage went from like 3 o'clock in the afternoon until 8 o'clock at night. Poor Edie and Golston, Kelly was on vacation or had something else, so she wasn't in town. Edie and Golston are on the desk. They had 2 reporters out there, me and Tom Duhane, that they could toss to along with the helicopter. And there's another one. And so you're sitting there with this camera on you thinking that you've got to fill this time and get information and not sound like an idiot. And in the back of my head, I'm always thinking, don't say ah. Does that count? You're doing all of this all at once, and you also have to keep in mind that you have an audience there that you're trying to relate to, and that you don't sound like a complete idiot while you're doing it at the same time. And sometimes it's easy to forget, but a lot of times, what I do is I often think, well, it's just Kelly and Golston, or it's just Edie and Golston. You think just the anchor person is on the other side, and you talk to them as if it's just them in the office. And a lot of them we talk pretty much the same to each other. in the office as we do, well, I guess it's a little bit more scripted on TV, but, there's another one. But when you're talking to them, that's how you sort of relate to the person that you're talking to, excuse me, on TV, so that you actually don't just come across like some static speaker that you always see at a lot of these political speeches and everything else. A lot of the stuff that we write, or that we do on TV is scripted. So we do write a lot of it out ahead of time. So we have a better idea of what we're doing, what we're saying. All of our scripts are pre-approved by managers to make sure that we're not libeling or slandering somebody. We can't just go on the air and say just about anything we want to say. Plus, we have a finite amount of time. As a reporter, we're given about 1 minute 15 to tell our story. That includes our sound bites. You usually want to have 3 sound bites in a story, so that, that takes 15 seconds out of your story. So we script our story